Good evening.
Good evening.
That was a very nice brochure for the Empire Cinema.
Oh, yeah.
Posted.
Thank you. Pleasure design.
Very professional.
I've printed off about 100 copies.
Right.
And I've put them through doors
Uh-huh.
in nearby houses.
Yeah. I might have to make you admin of that group.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping.
Would you like to be an admin? No.
I don't mind, but I'm
You
hoping
don't have
someone
to
will
do
come
that.
forward.
The thing that takes time is creating the consolidated posts
Yeah,
of what's on this week. That's time consuming because LinkedIn gives me no information whatsoever. I have to go and pull bits off the internet. And so compiling it is what takes time. But I thought it was worth doing, and LinkedIn seemed to like it, but I just don't have the time at the moment.
I don't either, really. That's why I'm hoping someone comes forward who will,
Yeah.
be enthusiastic. I met Chris Trillo this morning.
Oh, right.
He's one of the projectionists.
Ah.
And, he was saying Linton is very sensitive and
He is sensitive.
offensive.
He's very sensitive, yeah.
Apparently, Jill, when we all went to meet him, the councillors, he was very upset about it.
Was he?
Thought we were all,
I guess he might be.
criticising him.
So I have been with just Julian. So Julian's met him. Yeah.
We need to really just read the lease in detail and,
Julian's been doing that.
my approach is like two-pronged. So it's being nice to him and, trying to support him and encourage him.
Well, we
But
want,
then also try and push him to make a decision about what he's planning to do.
yeah, and I mean, we want the Empire to continue,
Yeah.
and we'd like to see it do better. There are so many things that they could be doing there that they're not because they're restricting themselves, really.
Well, it's chicken and egg because we've created it by not enforcing the lease, and he's created it by not, adhering to the lease. So the building's in a sorry state. I was in there last night. The lounge it just feels damp.
Well, it's
Smells
been,
damp.
yeah.
So the other longer term strategy is that we get a proper survey done and that we look at sources of funding.
Well, I think we have to.
And if we approached him and said, look, we've got all this funding in place, we're going to draw up a scheme and we can turn it into a state-of-the-art concert hall and cinema.
Have you been to the Carlton
Yeah.
near Westgate Towers? It's lovely.
Yeah.
I went there not all that long ago, and the Empire could be more like that.
I mean, the Carlton must be 300-400 seats. It's huge, the
Yes,
main
it is.
auditorium.
I'm not sure which one you.
Westgate and
The Carlton at Westgate.
Oh no, I was talking about Westgate Towers and
Towers and
Canterbury.
Canterbury.
Yeah,
Oh, that one, the new
no,
one.
that one is more sort of marketing.
What, the
And actually
Curzon?
that would suit, Curzon, yeah. And that would suit Sandwich, that sort of flavour.
I'm going to share a verbal report, so I don't know if you would.
Oh, yes, please, thank you.
So there aren't any decisions on the verbal report, but this is obviously an outline of exactly the progress we've made with the allotment
Thank
sites.
you very
So I'll
much.
read this, but I thought it might be useful for members to take a copy with you. And then I can obviously pull things through onto STC.
Yeah. This whole business that came up in the,
It's all clarified in here. It's basically, we're talking about the allotment fees being,
this business, is it a committee, is it a working group, what
Oh,
exactly is
yeah,
it? But there were some terms of reference which were agreed. There was a problem because actually Colin and Jeff were not at that meeting, And so it was proposed that it would be taken to the next meeting, and it never appeared on the agenda.
No, because we haven't made progress enough to call a working group meeting. There's no point until we get the allotments in a stable position. So that's why Chloe's been working really hard to get the allotment sites up to a standard.
So this is just officer working, the councillors are not actually involved in this then?
Well,
Not at the moment, because Chloe's been instructed and under my supervision to get the allotments up to speed. So all the allotment plots let, non-cultivation tackled, so all this is a progress update. So I'll be reading this as a verbal report,
Yeah.
and then we can go from here. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, because I mean, what Jeff stood up and said, well, I'm resigning from the allotments committee, and I thought, oh, crikey, you know.
But it'll be a working group.
Paul and Jeff seems to think there's an allotments committee. There's never been an allotments committee.
No.
There's never been a working group.
No, but the terms of reference were drawn up for it. And so, yes, it was as good as being created, but then the membership wasn't assigned to it. That was the problem, the membership wasn't assigned. And yet some councillors then appeared to be participating in something that didn't actually exist.
And then when the skip arrived, they were meant to be there.
Who was meant to be?
Paul or Jeff was meant to be there at 8 o'clock. I turned up at 8:10, and the skip was full.
Oh.
Full of stuff that shouldn't have been in there.
Oh gosh. Well, that's always the way with skips, isn't it?
So, but a lot of the plots have been scrimmed,
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
so at least you can see what you're dealing with.
I think I need someone to come and string my garden.
Hi.
Good evening.
You all right?
Yes, hi, thanks.
Yes. I'll put you there.
Yes. Hello. Jeff,
Last time you communicated, you said your wife wasn't very well. Last time you communicated, you said your wife wasn't very
oh,
well.
that's right, yeah. She got a heat stroke and it's just taking her weeks and weeks to get over it.
Oh dear.
She's still, I mean, she's better, but she's nowhere near 100% yet.
Oh my goodness.
Well, thank you for remembering that.
Yes,
That's kind. Did you have a good time in Edinburgh?
Yes, we had a lovely time. And tomorrow we're going to Turkey. So,
Oh,
Oh my goodness!
whereabouts?
well, we're going first of all to a place called Dalian, which has a major archaeological site. We're flying to Dalaman Airport, which is on a bit that sticks out. And then we're going to go south to this place called Dalian. We're there for 4 nights, and then we're going up in the mountains for a wellness week.
Is this quite east? Or more like that?
Say that again?
Is that quite far east?
No, north in the
Oh,
mountains.
okay, up towards the Yaxi.
Yes, but not very far. And then we'll come back.
Yes.
And then
So just tend to play around.
So the thing is,
Yeah.
I spent some
Yeah, I put
Yeah.
some down on the,
Thank you. Brilliant.
some of these down there.
Yeah.
I really like
So
it
people can
on
get
the train from Aberdeen to
Yeah.
He's a really different person.
I think
what we
This call,
Even
Are we here, are we?
you're here, so I don't know where mine is.
Yes.
You need to sit next to me.
Oh,
You might be in.
Yeah. Put this through Jill, is it that door?
No, just to be fair, he's had, you know, he's.
Yes.
run a city.
I'm gonna sit right over here. Okay.
It should be.
Yes.
It should.
So he's supposed to pick up interference.
Yes.
Same, I always said that quickly.
I only sat there because you're chairing the next meeting.
I am very true.
It's always useful to sit next to the chair.
Well, Colin can swap.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a good idea, but I just need a bit of space. Now, you say this should work.
It should. It's very spent on setting everyone up, so it should.
What I know, but found. Just a good job.
Good.
Why don't you connect them? Roundabouts.
We received these payment schedules. Committees. Yeah, just choose the. Shuffle somewhere else. You're right.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
okay, so how? Especially that meeting section.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's the
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. I'll have a look.
Shall I go in there?
That's okay.
Am I going in?
Sam.
No, it's not recommended.
No.
He started it.
Last year, graduation, we went to two graduations. What happened to the two of them?
It went on for like, each one was about 2.25 hours.
I'm sorry, I just know it was.
We were quite lucky, it wasn't so cold, but it was.
Just the cracking head.
So many graduations.
Yeah,
I bet you have, I can say.
Yeah.
It's like a
Um,
habit of
it's-
change.
I think it was some sort of long sandwich because sandwich was owned by the Christchurch Monks, and they own the priory and all that up there. We're seen as their servants.
But there are an awful lot of other.
Yes, we were this afternoon.
We had a couple.
Where the
Strange, we had
It's
the Maidstone and the
Folkestone.
Folkestones.
and something I thought we told them 2009 because you got it. You should have told us.
Well, they're so good, because you can't cheat. Get that separated.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a way you need to bend it.
Yeah.
Yes, done it, yeah. Yeah. Not favouring it.
Network
No
is
problem.
available. Why don't you-
Yeah, that's a good
Oh,
question.
Wi-Fi.
Just about COVID.
Sign into Network in line. It's going to say I can't do it. Just sandwich.
I haven't pressed the button yet, so there's no sound on
Oh,
mine.
yes, you've got it, isn't it? Just say, come on, yes.
I haven't pressed the blue button. Councillor Mallet said if you don't press the blue button.
Yeah.
Sign into Network. I do. Yeah. Click that.
It's not, is it? Well, you've got Wi-Fi already down there, so why aren't you using that Wi-Fi?
I didn't, sorry.
Mr. Derrick.
It's asked me to connect.
It's all programmed already for here.
All right, so
Yeah,
just come up.
it's strong. You've
So I
got,
just come up.
you have
No,
got,
no, I think come up straight away.
it's just because if you can use it, just click on sign in.
Yeah, I do.
So,
I went straight to the board, sign in Network.
As best as it can be.
try and, I didn't have this one.
Yes, we do like this one, just come up. Just because you've got, you see like, oh, I can't. Thank you. Do you want to ask you? No, I can't do that.
You have my number.
No, I don't know.
Okay, 6:30.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, councillors and guests. Welcome to this meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee on today, the 18th of September 2024. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence received.
Thank you, Chair. So we have apologies from Councillor Black due to an illness, Councillor Broom due to a travel commitment, and Councillor Marie due to a work commitment.
Thank you. So we are for it. So I shall carry on. Declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted. Do we have any declarations? No. Item 3 is minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee. To receive and approve the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee held on the 17th of July 2024 and consider any matters arising. Do we have any points arising from the minutes which are not on the agenda? Well, go on anyway.
FGP 0724X. I want to pick this up when we get into the agenda. That's why I had to sort of reflect, Colin, on that last statement from you. We are talking about priorities as part of the agenda. However, I don't want to go into the detail of what I want to say later on, but just wanted to point out at the last meeting, there are 17 bullet points recorded there, which many are actions and many are new actions. They don't feature elsewhere within the documentation in terms of how we're going to handle them. So I just want to make links between us having detailed conversations in this meeting and subsequent meetings, and then we actually forget about the actions we might have agreed.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave that there, because if you look at things like there's an asset management strategy, a deep dive, they do feature in some shape or form elsewhere, but I think we're running the risk of getting completely consumed by bureaucracy around priorities, terms of reference, actions, and I think if we're not careful, we're going to drown. I'll stop there. I'll pick it up later on.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I think most of these things are in, I mean, we can pick up in the priorities and the action log later on the agenda. But if when we discuss those items, you feel there's something that's not been covered that comes back to these minutes, then raise it at that point, if that's okay.
Thank you. I've no problem with the minutes, but I did wonder if the suggestion that was raised at the last meeting about a Christmas market is being taken forward.
I think that will come up under the verbal report on the market.
Okay.
So we'll cover that then. So I think when we come to the action log and the priorities, we'll keep in mind these minutes and check those 17 points that we're covering all the bases. But I agree, there is a danger of overwhelming us with too many actions, and we need to really focus on the key priorities.
So can I propose?
Sorry.
Can I propose we accept the minutes?
Is that seconded, Councillor Shrewsbury? Yeah. All in favour of that? So those minutes are accepted and approved. Next is public participation. A 20-minute session is set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect of business on the agenda. Representation should not exceed 5 minutes. Now, we raised this at planning the other day. This is actually wrong, this statement.
Yes.
It should say 4 hours
It should.
before the meeting.
It should.
So
I've updated it all now across all the committees, so it will be reflected. But basically, what happened, I cut and paste from full council, and I haven't ever updated it. So
that's fine.
But I'll sort it
As
now.
long as we're aware. So it's, just to be clear, it's noon for full council and 4 hours, i.e. 2:30 is the deadline for any committee or other group. Thank you. So the next item is payment schedules and finances. Various attachments, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, 5E, and 5F. 5E. So these are all the council payment schedules
Yes.
for mid-August, end of August, mid-September. Payments that miss the July payment schedule and payments that miss the August payment schedule. So I propose we take those as a block, 5A to 5E, if you're happy with that.
Yep.
The idea of bringing them to this committee was that really this is the place where we should be scrutinising these items in greater depth and not at council. So if there are any matters arising from those schedules, can you raise them at this point? I mean, I think in future meetings, it would be good to raise them in advance of the meeting, but perhaps if there are any things that strike out at you, we should discuss them now. So should we go through them one by one? 5A, first of all, which is the payment schedule for mid-August.
Yes.
Or should we do these page by page? So if we go page 1, anything? Expenditure, transactions, payments, approval list. Anything? Okay. Page 2.
Well, I did have a query about page 1.
Yeah.
1233 is the number, which is transport to Hive.
That's not page 1.
Oh, isn't it? What is it then? It says page.
Yes,
Page.
it is
expenditure
page 1 of the next schedule.
Later on. Okay. So the first page 1, anything?
No.
The first page 2?
No.
Okay, then we go on to attachment 2B, page 1. Is there anything on there? Attachment 2B, page 2.
I can't see attachment 2B. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Everyone?
Yes, this, I think I'm looking at the right page now. Number 1233.
1233 is
The next,
£146, 55 pence transport from Mary Mary's
Yes,
to
that's
Hyde
what I'm looking
for the Venetian fleet.
at. Yes, it seems an awful lot of money and I'm not quite clear what
How
the
much was it?
arrangements are.
146.55, 146.55.
What are the arrangements now?
It's the
for-
driver.
It's the driver's hours. He was with us whilst we were there. So he stayed on site. So what you're paying for is not just the mileage. The mileage isn't very much, perhaps from here to Hive,
See, from
perhaps
4
like
o'clock,
45p
from
an hour.
4 o'clock to 10 o'clock. instead of
4
10
o'clock to 10.
Because I understood you to say, I think at a previous meeting, that you and the mayoress were driving yourselves.
We have done today to try and keep the costs down. That's what we've done today to the
Went to
graduate
Canterbury
system.
today.
Today,
Canterbury
so
today
drive
because we
ourselves.
had secure parking.
Yeah.
So when we take the
I think it's
the
the
things
hard
we would-
issue, we need a mace. The mace had to be
is
taken.
a mace
Mace
bearer,
bearer,
yeah.
because we
So
have to have a driver with a
unfortunately,
mace bearer.
Yeah, we had to take him as a mace bearer. So, but it's quite a big saving because otherwise we'd have to have a separate mace bearer, and the driver is doubling up as the driver and the mace bearer for the event as well. But it
Isn't
was
that what the town sergeant used to do?
well, it did
Because both
when,
the driver
when we
and
had
the
when
mace.
we had a town sergeant. Yeah, so you've taken away my town sergeant, and now you're complaining that I'm using
because
some.
I'm just
I'm just inquiring, I'm just
So,
inquiring, because it's not,
Yeah,
I don't get a consistent message
No.
about the
it's-
arrangements for the mayor and mayoress to go to outside.
Sorry, before you do,
Yeah,
can I just, in terms of just building on that, my question is probably a little bit more, the next level up around the use of this particular, I don't know the origins, whether we benchmarked, whether we are benchmarking each year, how do we arrive at this being the right solution? And it could easily be the right solution.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, last year, there was, because the mayoress and I were curtailing a lot of the events, we were only going to, which we're doing this year as well, we're only going to civic events.
Mhm.
So there's a whole load of events where, like the Mayor of Folkestone say, come over to my tombola evening, blah, 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 £25 a ticket. We have completely, previous mayors would go to all of those, and we've been saying, no, we're not coming to your charity so-and-so. We're only coming if it's a civic event and we have to be there. We've been going. And last year, I think Jill will have to get some figures from the finance officer, but last year there was a surplus which was ploughed back in from the mayor's expenses that wasn't spent. But I'm not sure of the exact figure, but it was several £1,000s that we didn't spend last year, and it came back from. But we'd have to get the figure from Karen.
Otherwise, if you don't spend it, the following year, you don't get the same budget,
Yeah.
taken away from you.
Well, but it still stays with the council.
Council, yeah.
Oh, it does,
But
yeah.
this year, being your
Something else.
speakership, we do have to visit the other 13.
And I was going to add that don't forget that this year the mayor is actually the speaker as well. So there is an expectation that the mayor and the mayoress do attend more events this year.
Yes, but
And the solution I've come up with is the most cost-effective and actually, to be brutally honest, the only solution, because I tried lots last year to find people. People don't want to drive, for distances. They don't want to be antisocial hours. You're talking weekends, you're talking evenings. So there is not a row of people out there that are prepared to do this sort of thing. So this was the most cost-effective and practical solution, and the person that seems to be available when they're needed. So, I mean, thank goodness for them, because I don't know what we would have done otherwise.
well,
I certainly don't want to go into
I do remember, I know I went to the Christchurch University graduation ceremony in the cathedral last year, and I went on the bus. And it didn't occur to me to go any other way. And it's free because, I'm on a bus ride. And I took my own gun because I haven't. So
I think we're in danger of falling into Parkinson's law of inverse, whatever it is, about focusing on this small sum of money.
But it's, yes,
Could we move on?
no, I think it's important.
Also-
that we are told.
Well, can I just say, come back on that? First of all, there are taxi receipts for when you went to the graduation. Karen told me.
okay.
There are
Thank
taxi
you very
receipts. You
much.
had a taxi back.
Okay.
Daniel and I both have, because I work for South Eastern Railway, we both have rail cards. And we have been going to events where we don't take the chains on the train for free. So we went to Faversham Festival, Hop Festival, totally free, no cost to this council at all. But where there are chains, we're not allowed to travel on public transport with the trains. So the reason for the
I
car,
apologise.
it's protection.
Yeah.
So,
Safety. Okay.
thank you, no problem.
Right, shall we move on to 2C?
Nothing on
Anything on 2C, page 2C? Okay, should we move on to 2D, which is the expenditure transactions?
Yeah.
Okay. 2D, 2E. Anything on? And now on to 2F, which is the bank account reconciled statement. Somewhere in here there was a Shepherd Neame credit for £750. Is that from the tables and chairs,
Yes.
which they're not using? Will they ask for that back?
Well, no, there was a stipulation in the license.
Okay, that's good. Anything else on 2F? Okay, should we move on to 2G? Which is the August bank accounts. Anything there? So, you happy with all those?
Yeah.
When these come to council, we can at least say that we've looked at these in depth and hopefully there shouldn't be any major inquiries.
Yeah.
So are we happy to approve those?
Yeah, happy to propose.
Second.
All those in favour of approving those
All right.
schedules? Thank you. Right, the next one is attachment 3, item 6, which is the allotments update. And the town clerk has circulated a report on this. And it's good to see that the plots at Black Lane have been trimmed. And there do seem to be more plots that have been taken on, and some of them have been well cultivated and managed. Town clerk.
Thank you very much. Yes, so this is a verbal update report, but I have actually printed it for you and given it to you this evening. So this is just to note at the moment, and obviously any actions that spring up from this can go to full council regarding the fees. So this is a report put together by the assistant town clerk, who's been working extremely hard on the allotment sites. So with vacant plots, we currently have 3 vacant plots at the Black Lane site and 1 that's just recently become vacant at the Sandown site. Appointments have been set up for next week for potential plot holders to view the vacant plots. The waiting list. There are currently 23 people on the waiting list who live in Sandwich and a further 8 who live outside the area. So we've got a nice, healthy waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
Inspections. Inspections were completed in mid-September and 8 plots identified requiring cultivation. Letters have been drafted and will be sent to the plot holders by Friday this week, that's the 20th of September. Other actions. The first skip was provided on the 20th of July and has been agreed a second skip, and this has been arranged for the 12th of October to coincide with when the site rep is available for the site. The information will be sent to all plot holders by Friday this week, the 20th of September, and priority will be given to the plot holders who did not get an opportunity to use the first skip, and that will be made very clear to everybody.
Do we know who they are?
The people that are, well, there have been communications
Okay.
of people that are very disgruntled that they didn't get an opportunity for the skip. So, yes, but obviously the site rep, that's why it's very key,
Yeah.
the site rep to be there when this happens.
Yeah.
The Sandown allotment site rental charges. So the background, the Sandown allotment site was transferred over from Dover District Council to Sandwich Town Council in 2017. Prior to this being transferred, the allotment site was reduced in size and a new point of access arranged to accommodate a clubhouse for the neighbouring tennis club. In 2020, the site was given a compulsory order by Southern Water as urgent works were required to replace a sewage pipe. Approximately 75% of the site was excavated and not available to the tenants for over a year. In 2021, further expansion of the tennis club resulted in the Sandown site losing more plots. Due to the upheaval of both the tennis court expansion and the Southern Water sewage pipe replacement, rent has only been charged for the site once in the financial year 2019 to 2020 for a total of £8.15. We understand from plot holders of the site that this was a contribution towards administration costs and did not include water charges. Plot holders for the site have been provided at their own expense, double compost bins for each plot, communal bench and seating, communal shed, water butts, perimeter fencing and tube gates. So that was at their own expense. They've always maintained the site in general, including mowing the grass and trimming the hedges, so they've undertaken that themselves as well. The site representative there has requested that this is taken into account when considering rental charges for the plots. There are a total of 7 plots on this site. The Allotment Act 1950 and the National Association Society Guidance. So the Allotment Act 1950 Section 10 is, quote, land let by a council under the Allotment Act 1908 to 1931 for use as an allotments shall be let at such rent as a tenant may reasonably be expected to pay for the land if let for such use on the terms other than terms as to rent on which it is in fact let. The notion of what is reasonable was fleshed out within case law to establish the rent must be comparable to other nearby sites and any increases seen across other leisure activities in the area. If the rent is being used to fund other council activities, then it cannot be considered a reasonable level of rent for the allotment. Hence the reason for the ring fencing of the fees. The National Association Policy Document 3, Rents, outlines that when setting rent, it is important that the following points are considered. The long-term financial sustainability of the allotments, based on a realistic assessment of future expenditures. The availability of resources other than rent that can help meet the cost of providing and managing allotment gardens and infrastructure, including grants, subsidies from taxation, community infrastructure levies, the proceeds of properly sanctioned disposals, and the voluntary efforts of associations, site representatives and plot holders. The nature, quality and cost of the site provided and desired, including the cost of maintenance and depreciation. The actual area of each plot. Expenditures on promotion and administration. The present level of rent and its historic tradition. The likely effects of rent levels on plot take-up. The offer of concessions as permitted by statute. And charges to users of other outdoor recreational or leisure activities provided by the local authority. It also states that as a tenancy agreement includes the rent figure, whenever it is proposed to increase the rent figure, 12 months notice must be given to plot holders. So the Sandown rent setting for that site. There has been a comparison undertaken for similar size allotments in Kent. We haven't been able to obviously get an exact match. The closest we came to was Ash, which as you can see is 80 square metres, and ours are 70 square metres. So you do have comparison figures there for Deal, Temple and Ash. There has been a calculation that the administration of the site, we estimated £170 per annum. This equates to £14.70, 17 pence per plot. So the report will go to the full council with a recommendation taking into consideration the wishes of the plot holders, the national allotment guidance and the history of the site. It is recommended that an annual fee of £20 per plot holder is set for the Sandown site. This covers the £14.70 administration fees and £5.83 per tenant, which is £40.83 per annum, towards any future work required. And this year there has already been identified the need to secure a water tap standpipe, which has been scheduled with our operatives. Thank you.
So just to look at those figures, there are 7 plots at Sandown Road.
Yes.
£20 a year is £140 a year. The admin costs are £170 a year. So we're losing £30 a year. The admin site, it's not £14 a plot, it's £24 a plot.
Oh, sorry, there must be a typo. Yes,
So,
yes, thank you.
Also, Mr. Chairman, can I do know that we've had quite a large number of water bills in over the past year. The town clerk's talking about water bills. I can't see anything for an allowance for water used on the site. Now, unless Sandwich Town Council is going to provide the water for free, could we add in an allowance for any water that is used?
Yes, so we're still exploring that site. The large water bill was for the other site.
Oh, was that?
Yeah, so we're exploring the trying to get a check meter for water, because the issue is at the moment that the tennis club are using the same water supply and then the plot holders have water butts. So we're not convinced that the plot holders are actually using very much at all. But what we need to do is get some sort of check meter in place. And until we get the standpipe secure, we can't progress with that. So we are looking at getting all that sorted as well.
Super.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Could I just say, Mr. Chairman, though, based on what the town clerk says, and these are the fees that are going to be for the forthcoming year, can we put something in place just to cover any water? Because otherwise, if we do have an outlay on water, then it will come back on Sandwich Town Council to pay for that water. Obviously, if we haven't got any comparable data, we can't actually put an accurate figure on there. But if we could put a ballpark figure on there just to cover it. So if you were saying it's £24.78, is it now currently? Could we perhaps look at around that figure of about £30? So there's a provision for that.
So Councillor Anderson?
Yes, well, I may have made a mistake. I've just been looking at the cost price per square metre per year for each of these comparisons. And I may have a decimal point in the wrong place, but they are remarkably variable. So Sandwich, it seems to me, it's about 12 pence per square metre per year. Deal, it's 32 pence per square metre per year. Temple Ewell, it's 8 pence per square metre per year. And Ash, it's 50 pence per square metre per year. So I think we should be aware of these variations, but I think obviously we don't want to be way out of line from some of them, and I would suggest that Ash might be the one the most confident. I don't know.
So what I can't see, and there may be a really good reason for it, that Black Lane's not referenced in terms of what the allotment fees are there. So if we're doing benchmarking, why haven't we included Black Lane as a starting point? Because it's ours. And that should be our reference point in terms of what might seem sensible for the other set of allotments, unless there's mitigating factors. And there are some around previous investment. So I'd also be loath to move forward with a figure based on what I'm hearing. There are gaps around the data. So unless we're driven by a certain timescale.
No, so that's why it was a verbal report. So there's no
Yeah.
decisions this evening.
That's
I'm
fine.
just literally sharing with
Yeah.
you. And then obviously I'm looking for further information, which
Yeah.
Chloe's working on to go to full council
That's
with when there can be obviously a proper decision.
The final point is, if we've got demand far outstripping the availability, it's not, for us, we're in a good position in terms of making sure that we set the right level of fees within the context of there are a lot of people out there that do want to take up an allotment.
Yeah, I think reading between the lines on this, I think what the assistant town clerk seems to be saying is that the Sandown Road plot holders have done lots of work at their own expense, and therefore if we try and raise the fee too much, there will be a blowback.
Yes.
But I think we need to perhaps bring this to the next meeting, because Black Lane are paying about £80 a year.
I think it's 80.
I can't remember what the deal was, whether that goes back
It's
to
85.
£40, but clearly that's a big disparity.
Yes, and that's my
So
point, we should be making sure.
I would think it needs to be more £35–40 a year at least. But we need to do some, perhaps a bit more consultation and come back to the next meeting with a full report.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I know some of the applicants for plots from outside the town, and I wonder if this isn't the system that, you know, we should scrutinise, because it's clear that if you live in, what's the most expensive, Ash? Something
Most
like that.
expensive.
If you live in Ash, you're going to try and save a lot of money by asking
Yes.
for a plot in Sandwich.
So,
Could I just say, going forward, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I think we all agreed in several other meetings that going forward, and this includes Guildhall and everything else, is that we really do need to cover our costs, because we all know that the allotments, Guildhall, lots of other places, the town council is paying bills that is covering and subsidising services to other people. And I won't drift off onto the Guildhall, but there are a lot of areas where we said we would tighten up and make sure that we're at least covering our costs.
Yeah.
So, and I'm stipulating we need to cover our costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're being asked to look at a £20 per annum per plot fee. I think we need to defer that decision
Yes.
because that would
Yeah.
make Sandham Road a loss-making enterprise, which we can't do.
It can't be a decision this evening anyway,
No.
because it's only a verbal
Yeah,
report
yeah.
and sharing, yeah, so this is for you to note. And
Okay.
this is just to give you the background of what's coming through to full council.
So for the minutes, could we agree that for the next meeting, we have a comprehensive report on all the allotments? I'd like to see a schedule of all the plots, not with names, just with numbers,
Yes.
saying it's cultivated, it's not cultivated, it's let, it's not let, just so that we can see what action has been taken on each plot. And also a financial summary of the income and expenditure on both sites. And we can then make a decision perhaps about the Sandown Road plot fee as a recommendation for the budget process.
So do you want this to come back to the committee rather than go to full council? You want this to come to the October committee?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we can-
Just one final comment from me. The accepting of new allotmentees. Allotment holders, tenants. You can see I'm not
Plot
tenants.
holders.
Yeah, plot holders.
We're losing the plot.
Do they, is it first come, first served? Just again, in the sense of transparency, and with so much demand, I would hate to think that there's any fuzziness.
No, so there is a waiting list, and it is the top of the waiting list, they are
They
offered
get the
first.
first offer.
If they don't want to take a plot, they might have circumstances change,
Yeah.
then it will go to the next person. So it's strictly on what the waiting list
It
says.
should be.
Yeah.
I'd like to propose the chairman's recommendations taking forward.
Second?
So that we have a full report to the next meeting with the plot by plot summary of where we are with Sandham Road and Black Lane, and that we have a financial report on both sites with a recommendation on the fee to go into the budget process. Does that agree?
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
So,
Just agreeing.
oh, great, okay.
And just to be clear, as it says on the Allotment Act, the fees will only be enacted after a year, so you have to give people a year's notice,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in any event, it wouldn't be, thank you.
Just as a historical thing, I thought allotments owned by local authorities were protected from development. I don't know the history of the
Yes.
Southern
Yes.
Water and the tennis
Yes.
club.
Yes, you do have to ensure that you offer up, if you do use the allotment land, my understanding was that you do have to ensure that there are allotments available.
Yeah.
If you, so I'm not quite sure what happened with the tennis club, because they were reduced the numbers, I don't know. I'd have to ask Dover District.
That's right, yeah, I was just trying to remember back when that happened. I think Dover District said as long as other allotment spaces were available elsewhere, then that was agreeable for it to go ahead, so.
I can understand Southern Water would have compulsory purchase powers, but not the tennis club. Okay, maybe that could be just covered in the report. So next item is item 7, market update. Town clerk to share a verbal report on the Thursday and Saturday markets, including number of stalls. The committee is invited to receive and note the report.
Thank you very much. So just to update really on the Thursday market, we are now at full capacity. We've got 18 gazebos going to be used tomorrow. So it is really encouraging, and it's almost sustaining itself now to hit between sort of 15 and 16 regularly. And we do have now a core of stallholders that are here on a weekly basis, and actually it works really well. We do the promotion as well on Facebook, so I think that definitely helps. And obviously word of mouth, stallholders are actually encouraging people they know now. We've had 2 new inquiries for Saturday this week, so there will be 2 brand new stalls on this Saturday. The Saturday market is a bit more challenging, I think, because we've got competition we know with Deal, but it's gradually building, and the challenge will be really, and it's for council to decide if you want that to continue past October. And obviously it does mean there's a draw on resource. We know that we are using one of our caretakers to twice a week to get the gazebos out and put them up, and that is a bit more challenging in the winter conditions. But I think it's been very encouraging, and I think Councillor Chuka probably wants to elaborate a bit further.
Yeah, so I've written a report for next STC on the decision that we need to take as a group around the Saturday market. There are a number of considerations. It isn't just about finances, but finances are important. So it's all featured in, and I won't go into detail of that now. But I think we've got, particularly with the property manager now on board, we've got a real opportunity to focus more effort around, particularly the Saturday market, look for opportunities to attract more stall holders. So we've got a small core element, but it is very small. And we are going to move into the autumn and winter months. That is a challenge for anybody involved in running a business outdoors. So that will be in the report. Don't think much more I need to elaborate on it. I think it's been a success over the summer period at least.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give thanks where thanks is due. So I wanted to thank the town clerk who has organised this all the way through. I'd like to thank Councillor Chuka for his unending sort of hard work and efforts and being there and covering everything. I'd like to also thank, she's not here tonight, Councillor Ripley for maintaining the STC stall every Saturday and trying to get councillors to do that. And finally, I'd like to thank Christina Glynn for promoting the market via Facebook and other means like that. And I think it just shows what a good team we've got because the market is so successful. And the Mayor would just like to say thank you to everybody for their hard work.
It was just a quick question about the Saturday market in terms of it had a lower fee. It's got the same fee as it? Oh, was that the other?
Yeah.
But it's not a high fee, is it? It's quite
No, it's £10 per pitch, which includes the gazebo. If they have a table, it's £5 for the table. But Deal charge the same level, so that's where the competition really sits.
Yeah.
And ultimately, there is a financial consideration, and we can talk about that.
It's very reasonable.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful that these markets are going, and it's obviously part of a sort of more general offer that Sandwich has, and there are benefits to that. But just thinking about finances, presumably when the financial profit and loss, as it were, accounts are presented at the town council meeting, some account will be taken of the, I presume, overtime salaries of the caretaker.
So it's not overtime. It's
not
literally factored in either as toil, time off in lieu,
Okay.
or it will be scheduled so that they are, their shifts are shorter during the week and things like that. So it's all worked around.
Okay, but that still remains a cost.
It
to the
does.
council, and
Yes.
I'm hoping that will be, on the expenditure side as opposed to the income side when we get presented with the.
As the report is written at the moment, it recognises there is a cost, but it recognises it in the sense that it's not included, because it does vary quite a bit, and I don't know whether the town clerk will be able to have that analysis in time. There is a few days, but it will need an amount of work by the finance officer, I think, because it's not a standard picture every week, because, for example, the caretaker may be here for a wedding.
Yes.
Now, to do the gazebos as part of a day's work is less than having to come specifically for the market. So there's quite a few parameters around this.
I think with all these things, events, we need to make sure we're including all of the costs. Otherwise, it's a false picture.
I believe on the Thursday, so the caretaker would be here on a Thursday anyway.
Yeah.
And whether he was painting the hallway or putting up gazebos, he would be, his hourly rate is to do the work that the town council is asking him to do.
Yeah.
So if he's actually doing putting up the gazebos during his normal shift. Surely that's a part of his normal
Great
shift.
work.
And then I believe he has Friday off,
Yeah.
swaps around.
Yeah, so just generally, I think the Thursday market's really buzzing now. Very impressive. The Saturday market, it's improving. The baker is fantastic there. It's a big draw.
Just you need to say, because you've been filming, you need to say there are the bakers that are available.
Available, yes. The Thursday baker's good. Going back to the last minutes, we talked about doing a leaflet. I know the property manager is now taking on the role of promoting the market, so perhaps that's something we could discuss with him, leafleting the whole town to try and get people from the town into the markets.
Yeah, it does feature in the report I've written about
Okay.
the marketing, but I think we should rely on the property manager in terms of capacity, capability, and what he thinks will work. The leaflet is one option, but there are other options as well.
The other thing is we've got the October antiques
We have,
for county.
we have.
And I went to the Deal Braddery on Saturday,
Oh, yeah.
Sunday rather.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant event, full of people. And if we can get some of the kind of stalls that were there here, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I just wondered with that event whether, or indeed other Saturday markets, for example, whether we could utilise Cowley's Meadow as a incentive with free parking.
Of course, if it's, for example, in October, maybe Waterloo, but it is an option certainly.
We can maybe look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are we happy to note?
Yeah, proposed note in the
Notes,
report,
seconded.
thank the town clerk for
All in favour, we note that, and thanks to all those involved.
Yeah.
Great work.
Lindsay as well. Lindsay's
And
been
Yes.
Lindsay, yes,
Yes.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Critical to note.
Right, the next item is 8, events on the forecourt and in the Guildhall for 2025. We need to review the timetable, consider reviewing the use of the forecourt and Guildhall in 25, and share a brief verbal report. Do you want to give that?
Yes, I'm happy to. So basically, we agreed that, or you've agreed that you're going to review the use of the forecourt and the Guildhall for next year for events. There have been challenges this year with events on the forecourt and events inside the Guildhall. And I think it's clear that some of the events on the forecourt, there are tightening up of certain aspects of the events. So for instance, things like matting underneath vehicles, noise levels sometimes as well, that's been a bit of a challenge. Other things like using the drains, disposing of oils and things. So, there are things that need tightening up. I think as well, some of the event organisers are not too readily sharing information that they should be. So, it's a case of I'm having to now, chasing people, documentation, and some of it I still didn't get right up to the event taking place. So we can't have that happening next year. That has to be tightened up. And, if they're going to get permission from Dover District and go through the safety advisory group process, then I clearly need to see sight of everything that they've had shared with Dover District. So obviously the fees as well, the reflection of what we're charging for the reduced £25. There has been electricity used. I've now had a check meter installed inside the boiler room. So we are in a position now where we can check what's electricity before the event takes place and afterwards, and clearly get a meter reading so that we will be able to invoice, which I think needs to be factored in for next year, even for the community events, because some of them use vast amounts of electricity. They've got stalls with ovens plugged in and things. So, we are talking vast amounts of electricity. So those are the things that I've picked up really through the year. And I'm hoping that members will seriously look at the fees as well, because it's resources. Even if we're saying we need somebody, a caretaker or one of my officers here on site in the morning to give people access, that's still somebody's coming out, giving up their time. There might not be anything happening inside the Guildhall. So all that sort of thing needs to be factored in as well, the resource cost. Sorry, I thought you had your hand up. Obviously, Councillor Miles and Councillor Chickham as well have been working on the guidance for the hire of the Guildhall. Sorry, we haven't started that yet. We're in the process of doing that. But the forecourt, certainly, we've been looking at the documents and guidance for that. And we need to make sure that we have a robust process. So basically that's what I'm summing up. I think we should look at the process, we should look at the fees that we're charging and take real costs into account, address the electricity usage, tighten up on people supplying documentation that they've supplied to Dover District Council, and obviously the dispensation fee, which is given to a small number of local events, whether that should actually be increased, because £25 is a very, very small amount of money. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I said before, with all these events, we need to make sure we're including all of the costs. Otherwise, we're getting a false picture. I think with the £25, perhaps it's something we need to come back to at the next meeting with the generally the rules and the procedures for letting the forecourt. What we do have now is a new leadership and committee for Sandwich community events. So hopefully we can have a constructive dialogue with them about where we are. If we stay with the low fee, then my recommendation would be that we require a deposit to be paid. That's £250 from each event, and make it clear up front that that deposit will cover the cost of electricity, cleaning, other costs. So that's one way of approaching it, or we just put the fee up generally, or we have a completely different approach. But I think we need to discuss this internally and with the SCA and agree a way forward, because we can't subsidise these activities.
Yes, thank you. I agree with all that. We were also asked about the timetable, and I would be interested to hear how quickly we could have such a review completed.
So building on that, there are component parts to this, and what I will be tackling in time for the next meeting is the guidance for the forecourt. I'm going to revisit that to make sure it's robust in terms of addressing a number of issues that have existed this year. However, what else there is there's the guidance for this building, use of this building. Then there is the fees, but it's not just about finger in the air and saying actually that looks a bit low. There's a bit of a benchmarking activity needed there. And we need to make sure all of that is joined up. But recognising what the town clerk is saying, we are in a position where we're just not managing this asset, which is a forecourt, and this building properly in terms of the residents. And the residents isn't just a group of events organisers, it's the whole town. £25, we will have a debate about that. But we need to be realistic. The only thing I would flag up is there is a dividend that we should always recognise for community type events. So whilst we might say 25 is just absurd, and we can work through a process of saying where we think it should be, we shouldn't lose sight of the value events, particularly community-based events, bring to the town. And let's not just be completely hard-nosed about this. So that's all I would say, because I've got no skin in the game regards any events, whereas some councillors may have a difficult conversation in their own heads about events versus council. For me, I'm completely clean about this, so I can look at it objectively, and I recognise community events are important.
This is the issue we have to balance, because as a town council, we have some residents complaining about events. We have others saying this forecourt belongs to us, it should be free. We have others saying, you can't do that because we've been doing this for years and years. We have assets we have to get an income from. We have a forecourt we have to pay for over the long term. So there's lots of competing aspects to this.
What I would like to see, thank you, is so I would like to see as quickly as possible, building on what Councillor Pennington's saying, because events organisers, I did it for 12 years with the Christmas lights. You have to plan vastly in advance of the event actually taking place. So I think we should expedite this as soon as possible. I think initially there should be a review undertaken internally to come to a set of fees, a set of new fees, so that things are looked at. I mean, it's quite humorous, really. Apologies for laughing earlier, but they're charging, these event organisers are charging 25, 30, 40 pounds per stall, and yet we're charging 25 pounds for the whole forecourt.
More than that.
So, more than that, there you go. I'm totally out of the picture there. So, as I say, I'd like to see an internal review undertaken, a set of fees drawn up, to include costs or additional costs are shown, so everything is transparent and clear for the event organisers. And then I would like to see, as soon as possible, a meeting with the event organisers and explain to them, say, these are the costs, this is how we came to these costs based on this data, and that is what we're proposing for next year. And then we can have some discussion with them, and in some ways we may be able to negotiate one way or the other, dependent on the outcome of the meeting. Thank you.
I mean, just to be clear, we have a policy for this year, which is that the reduced fee should be chargeable. My recollection is we haven't committed ourselves to any figures in future years, which we couldn't do anyway. So it's an open book, really.
Yes.
But the question is whether we can get this done for the next meeting.
Well, it depends on who's going to put their hands up and do the work. So I put my hand up to do the forecourt guidance.
Maybe you could do a draft and we could have
Yeah,
a
it's
meeting.
more
and
than happy to do
circulate
that, but
Yeah.
as I said, there's only one piece in Village.
Yeah. The Guildhall fees, I think, is a longer term project. Possibly. I mean, we could do it quickly. But, I mean, the property manager has to really lead on that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to work with the property manager, but I think with the other things he's addressing at the moment, which I
Yes.
think are a bit more pressing,
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to, take his capacity, reduce it on what he's currently working on.
So,
Thank you. I remember from some of the applications from community groups for events that they put a lot of emphasis on increased footfall and the increased benefit to shop holders in the town. And I'm very pleased to hear that we now have an interlocutor in terms of organising community events, but I would like also to have some sort of interlocutor in relation to the local shops. And I'm not quite sure that exists. I know one or two shopkeepers who are very active in bringing people together.
We don't have a chamber of commerce, that's the problem. So there's no one we can talk to. You talk to different people, you get 100 different opinions.
Well,
yes, so I suppose in terms of shopkeepers, there is a mixed response to the events. And it depends also the type of event, who's running the event as well. That generates certain responses. So I think it's a valid point, Martin, but I don't think there is. And Council Mars carried out a survey following the first festival event, and it was a mixed reaction, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But those that attended it, as residents and visitors, it was almost unanimously very positive. So that's interesting.
I'd just like to add to what Councillor Tuke is saying. We'd have to qualify what you've actually said, Councillor Pennington, because, for instance, I spoke to a number of the King Street shop owners,
yes.
and not just the usual ones, but a mixture of newer ones actually. And they said, for instance, when the Folk and Ale Festival was here, some of them actually closed down or reduced their hours, and they say, not to give it away, but they say, when people coming for folk music and drink and possibly food, they're not actually in the market for buying cards or antiques or clothes.
Yeah.
And so several, and I think it was about 4 in King Street said during the Folk and Ale, it's actually detrimental. It brings in tourists to the town and they spend money in the public houses and restaurants, but it doesn't bring in the right customers that they need. So we would have to qualify what you're saying about the shop owners, you know, it benefiting some, not others.
Well, sorry, just to clarify, I was saying that the community events organisers quote this as a strong benefit. And it was precisely because I'm not sure, and that there may be different answers from different shop keepers.
The problem with King
Precisely the point.
The problem with King Street during events is there is no footfall there. People are not going up King Street because there's nothing going on there.
Yeah.
So the shopkeepers don't have any real incentive to do anything. But in the Hop Festival in Faversham, the whole area is pedestrianised, and the shopkeepers with a business sense get stalls outside their shop. They don't rely on people going in. They actually come out into the street,
They do,
you know, and they sell trinkets or
they do.
burgers or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really apply in King Street. So there is a mixed response from businesses. The hospitality sector benefits hugely from any event, generally.
Also, I just wanted to reply to Councillor Pennington, and the economic development manager, Mr. Iggulden, always quoted, he used to quote, so for the last Royal and Ancient Golf Club, he said that it would bring in £80 million worth of economic growth for the southeast, including Sandwich. But on my iPad, I went out on over 3 days of the golf, and a large number of the shops in Sandwich were closed. When I was taking photographs, I was standing in the highway with literally no vehicles at all. So quotes that are made not based on data, I'm sorry to say, are quite worthless.
So just put a bit of rigour around what we need to do. In terms of the aim should be to have a new set of fees for the Guildhall itself for 25/6. So the question is, what time frame have we got available to do that? And who's going to take that away as a piece of work? That's what we need to agree, I think, hopefully tonight. A shorter term exercise is the Guildhall forecourt rules and regulations. I can do that as a draft in time for the next meeting. And then there is also a similar document for the use of this building, because some of the misdemeanours this year have occurred within the building as well as outside.
So if we can agree that we bring a report to the next meeting on the forecourt rules, regulations, fees, which Councillor Shuker will lead on,
I didn't say fees,
not fees.
rules and regulations.
Okay.
It's a standalone document, and I'm going to read through in
Okay.
terms of its robustness.
So the fees should come to the meeting after, once we've had a chance to discuss with the community events organisers.
No, I don't think we should go outwards before we have internally agreed to where we want to go with our fee structure. It's for us to lead this conversation, but one more demanding is that somebody actually says, I'll take that way as a piece of work.
I think,
The fee
What
discussion.
fee setting?
yeah, because what we know last year, this was hugely challenging.
It was,
And there was a benchmarking exercise done, and all that got swept aside
Yeah.
because there was pressure. And that's why I'm a bit
that's why I'm not
reticent about going
down.
down that route again, because
No.
it's a lot of effort. I went into, Councillor Chuka went to, and we had a meeting, and things just sort of got swept aside, and it was benchmarking, it was real data, and it was real, and I think if there isn't an appetite for saying we're going to be increasing the fees, then it's not really no point in people going to a lot of work and doing that if there isn't the appetite. And I think that's really, members have got to really reflect on what,
So,
it is challenging.
but these figures really need to be agreed by November
Ideally, because
to feed into the budget.
Yeah, exactly, budget setting, and also obviously event organisers are already contacting me, trying to book for next year for the forecourt. And I've been saying to people, there is a review being undertaken by council. I can't tell you what the fees are at the moment. So there will become increasing pressure over the next couple of months. Because as you say, Mr Mayor, people who are planning events, they need to know, you know, this time of year rather than January, February.
So I am, Councillor Morehouse is now the chair of community events. I am a committee member. I don't think I can wear two hats and do that review of fees because I would be accused of bias.
I'm
in some
sorry
way.
to say.
Is there anyone else in this committee?
Jill, but can I just speak for the town clerk and myself? We have got two of the largest events that are going to happen in South East Kent, and Jill and I are involved in number one, Speakers Day, number two, installation of the Lord Warden, which is a national event. It's going to be televised now. And number three, we have got the Remembrance Parade. Number four, just so that all of you know what Jill and I are working on here, we've now been given a flashbang. The Lord Warden, I don't know if I'm allowed to release it, but is going to be visiting Sandwich and Sandwich Town Council directly after the installation, and he's expecting to be lunched and meet all of the town councillors and meet the good and great of Sandwich and have a little tour. And we've got now 4 events that the town clerk and I are working on between now and early November. So we're literally working till midnight almost every night now.
I'm happy to, if I can take the data and the reports that we did for last year, I'm happy to ask one of my officers to look at that and see what might have changed.
Yes.
I mean, we do know that people have been putting fees up locally as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a starting point. Maybe we.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer any questions in terms of how I approached it for last year.
Yeah.
More than happy.
But is any member of this committee willing to lead on this with the town clerk?
I wasn't putting my
I think Councillor
Be
Anderson was
careful, be
volunteering.
careful.
But I was going to ask a question, which is, with this comparative data which was achieved and in the paper was really good last year, what I would also like to see is information about what the festivals and events actually charge themselves for the people who are hiring via them,
Good
stores and so on.
That's great.
Because I don't think we have that information.
I think we've discussed this in the past. Once we start getting into what they're charging their accounts, it starts to get very messy. We have to just take play a straight bat with this and say, look, this is a reasonable amount. So I think on this, perhaps the town clerk could circulate a draft paper with, ballpark figures for fees
Yes.
for the forecourt. Would that be based on the work that was done last year?
Yes. Yes.
And, updating for our costs,
Yes.
maybe talking about a deposit being paid.
Yeah.
Cleaning, staff, all
So the
those kinds
deposit
of-
element will feature in the rules and regulations.
Yeah.
I can put that in there without an amount, but it will be included
Yeah.
as part of the process. My personal view, to be sanctioned or not by the council, is that anybody hiring the forecourt needs to provide a deposit for the protection of that as an asset, should anything happen, as has happened this year.
And I think all of the events committees have the funds to be able to do them.
Definitely.
Just to add as well, obviously, we do know that the forecourt, if you look at it, it has taken a battering this year. And the cleaning company that Dover District used, we did get them out and they did do a test patch, and you can clearly see the difference when they did that. But it is a lot of money. It's a big cost. And whether or not that should be factored, if we're looking at true costs, because I feel that once a year we should actually get this company in to do a professional clean after the season's finished. So whether or not that's factored in, that would definitely make a significant impact.
We all our income this year from events on the forecourt is outstripped by the cost of one clip professionally.
That's just.
And the other factor in this is the new costs that are coming on Market Street,
Yeah.
closures. So all of that could either mean there's no events at all in the centre of town,
Yeah.
or that there's much more demand for the forecourt.
Yes.
We don't know.
I didn't want to get started on that, but we are looking to arrange a meeting with Dover District Council on that.
So as a way forward, on the Guildhall fees, which we need to bring to November, I would be willing to work on that with the property manager. And as a general rule, my argument would be commercial fees should go up significantly for purely commercial organisations, weddings, etc. And for non-profit, we should be going up by a factor of inflation. And for things in between, we need to.
The only thing I would say, Colin, is that if you are going to jump the fees for commercial activities, you need to have some data. Yeah, you have to. So a wedding in this building, how does that compare with other venues within the vicinity? You need to be able to say, if you're going to go up by 40%, 50%, whatever it might be, to say actually the reference point for this is this set of data.
I'd like to propose the chairman's recommendations for the fee structures being.
So what I'm recommending is, one, that Councillor Shuker brings a report back on the rules and regulations for the forecourt to the next meeting, that the town clerk circulates a draft fee schedule for the forecourt with broad figures, ballpark figures, and that the Guildhall fees I work on with the property manager for the November meeting.
Proposed.
So,
All those in
In
favour?
favour.
So we have a way forward. Thank you, Tom. Item 9, unexpected large income receipts and potential efficiencies. Town clerk has shared a report that sets out some unexpected fee income, which is much to be welcomed. Do you want to say?
Yeah, thank you. So yes, I just wanted to obviously update on the damaged window. It's good news that we do have the full cost of the works reimbursed by the insurance company Zurich. There isn't an update yet on the CCTV footage. It was captured by our local PC and shared with both local schools, but obviously we've had the school holidays. And I haven't had an opportunity yet to follow that up with the PC, but I will do to see if there's been any identification of the people concerned. The gas contract for the Guildhall, the RFO has been working with the utility broker, and I'm pleased to say that it looks like the gas contract for the Guildhall we can renew into a 3-year contract, which is in progress, and it's estimated that this will bring us a saving of approximately £7,000. That's good news. The Guildhall car park, the budget figure we had was £10,000. We've actually received £33,477.79. So that's very welcomed. Also, STC, there have been 2 income receipts that were not expected. The Maddox dividend income received, that was in August, that was £35,153.03. And also the recovery of Fishergate business rates, £7,980.18. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chief.
Excellent.
Proposed noting the report, and thank you for
Thank you.
that.
Yeah, all those in favour? Seconded for that? Seconded. All those in favour?
Thank you.
It's great news. Okay. Next item is priorities for the Finance and General Purposes Committee, attachment 4. So this is an ongoing priority list, and it ties in as well with the action log that the town clerk has circulated. Do we want to go through this step by step? Any comments? Some of these are out of date.
yes. So, my first comment was that a number of the objectives are arguably delivered. So this is back to my point at the start of the meeting, that I would personally prefer that we distill all that we've got floating around in various places in terms of what might be priorities. If we refer back to the start of the administration year, where the mayor stood up and said what his priorities were, that it was 10 or less priorities, probably less than that. what I think, depending on how you slice and dice this, we could potentially, and whilst this is the engine room as far as I'm concerned of the council, we probably have 40 priorities listed across here. That's not a way to make us, we should be focused on delivery, not on building bureaucracy, and it feels like we're building bureaucracy at the moment.
And now we have the report from Councillor Breen on the
And exactly, that's
on the
what.
terms of reference.
when I
It's
saw
just
that,
too
that's-
much.
Yeah. So on the terms of reference, my personal view is good to have, but it's a reference point for any individual councillor in this meeting to say, there's a terms of reference point here, but we're not meeting it. It's not to be used as a driver for this meeting
Definitely not.
explicitly. It's implied, but not explicitly. And then, back to my point, Councillor Wise at the start of the meeting, there were 17 bullets listed in the last meeting. Out of that, I could probably pick up 5, 6, 7 that do not feature in our priorities, but they were listed as potential priorities.
I don't know if there's a way of merging this document, the action log and the terms of reference into a single document, so we can say, you know, these are the 15 priorities or actions for you. Because on this, we need dates as well. Progress
Yeah,
to
so I
date,
went on to
you know,
say that.
How long
Time-bound,
it's been outstanding.
looking at those.
Um,
Yeah, we need
I
to
don't know if that's feasible.
clearer updates, which are time bound, what needs to be done and what progress has been made. That's where we really need to get to.
And just to make sure things don't fall down the cracks. So, are there any glaring issues on this document that anyone wishes to raise?
So which document are you
I'm looking at agenda item attachment 4,
attachment 4? Which is-
priorities for 2024.
Oh, it's attachment 4 says terms of reference.
It's agenda item,
This one, isn't it?
agenda item 10. Priorities for the Finance and General Purposes Committee, update attachment 4. So the first one is considering
Yeah, so I
a new staff structure
think it's
ongoing.
closed.
I mean, that's all finished now, isn't it? Really?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
declared that myself.
The RFO software, that's done.
Close.
That's done. Improve the presentation of accounts, that is ongoing. I think we need to bring that back because now that the software is up and running, we can hopefully discuss with the RFO about, you know, what the possibilities are for better
Can I
presentation.
just update you, Councillor? Mrs. Carter, when she was reconciling the accounts, was discussing the same factor about presentation of the accounts, weren't you? And so there is work ongoing with that as well, actually.
So Councillor Carter is leading on that.
No, I was
Well,
just,
you're working with the
yeah, I was just
RFO.
discussing with her
on
how
how
she
to-
get
yeah.
hours and uses.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have ideas about better presentation of accounts. So perhaps we could have that as an agenda item for the next time. Because, you know, I'm assuming the software is bedded in and that Karen's much more familiar with it and.
Yeah, there's still a bit further training needed,
Okay.
but, and obviously she's been on holiday, she's just returned.
Yeah.
But she will be clerking the meeting next month. She will be here clerking
Okay.
the meeting with you, so that
So
might be an
maybe
opportunity.
we could have a session with her before the end of the year so that
Mhm.
for next year,
Mhm.
we can have a better
Yeah.
presentation of accounts. IT system and website,
So, as far as I'm concerned, that's delivered, but it's been superseded, and if you go back to the bullets, what's in the bullets was that we were going to possibly have improvements to the website in terms of its content and presentation in August. But, you know, that isn't just the only example. The deep dive was also mentioned as a bullet point, so what I'm concerned about is we're seeing things that we think are really important in these conversations, but we don't then turn it into actions.
absolutely, but Councillor Breen was supposed to lead on that, I believe,
Not on the website.
on the deep dive.
There was,
And
yeah,
Councillor
and that's, one of the bullets is for Councillor Carter, D, Councillor Green, P, to go away and look at how we might tackle a deep dive for this meeting.
Yeah.
Not to have a deep dive this meeting, but to have a presentation about how we might
Yes.
tackle it.
Okay.
I would like to just raise the question of the website because I don't think it's working terribly well, to be honest. I mean, for example, I needed to check that the next town council meeting is definitely on September 30th, and I couldn't find any way on the website of discovering when the next town
It's
council.
on the calendar.
Yeah, and the homepage, if you scroll right to the bottom, the calendar of meetings are all there, and it tells you can click on the link and it'll tell you every meeting calendar comes up.
Okay, well, I can do that. But, and things like the Tolbridge Fund is under community, and it's not obvious. And there are other problems, and I just do think that somebody needs to.
The thing I picked up today is lots of minutes are not appearing,
Yeah.
going back to May or.
Yeah.
So I was fully intending to do that in August, but other things have happened. Other priorities, I actually worked on my holiday as well. I didn't catch up with minutes, which the chairs know. I was working all through my holiday, so I can't do any more, unfortunately. That was the one thing I wanted to do, and I just didn't get the capacity. I'm going to try this month, but as the mayor's just explained, we've got a lot of pressures on civic events. So, but everything is on there. Everything is on there. I mean, the minutes are loaded with the agenda, so the minutes go up when the agendas go up for each meeting.
They're the draft minutes.
Yes, but usually they're not amended, but if they are. But yes, I have got it on my priority list, but it keeps sliding down. And, at the moment, there are just, I'm spending time with the property manager to make sure he has, the support he needs for his role. So yeah, so it is on the list, but unfortunately it's not to the top yet.
So if we could just quantify that just for a minute, Mr. Chairman, the website is actually a vastly improved website, but the factor is that we don't have the staff availability to post stuff that we need. So that is the item that needs to be looked into.
Yeah,
Is
it
the
is our
delegation.
shop window, it's where people look.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So I suppose, I think the demands on the officers are immense, particularly this year. And I just wonder, is there another way, because the town clerk, it sounds like a lot of this is invested in you to do this. Do you have any other options that could be explored over the next quarter? So the whole thing is not to say the website's not working, can get it sorted by Friday. That isn't reasonable. But we need to find a way collectively to try and make it, improve it. And there are things, that some of us can do on the edges, but ultimately it has to be the officers because of access to documents.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what frustrates me, is because if I was able and allowed to do stuff, I get it, I do my time and sort of. But unfortunately, all sorts of seems channeled through you, and I don't know whether there's any opportunity to think about actually how do we, for the next October, November, December, get to a point at the end of that 3-month period through other means, because it all is invested in you, and everything else comes on your shoulders. We may not find ourselves moving forward on it.
I think if realistically, the property manager, probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks, he will be in a position where he has asked all the questions he needs to. He's got all the information he needs. He'll be bedded in.
Set free.
And we get these civic events because at the moment the Speakers' Day, the installation and everything like that is so pressing and so urgent. I mean, it's 2 weeks Saturday now, and there are lots of things I could sit here and bore you with, things I haven't done yet that I need to do. So that does have to take priority. But if I can get past October, and then I think I do have capacity then, because these civic events will have slowed right down or disappeared. Remembrance would be the last one before Christmas. So I do realistically think I can get there. It's just not going to happen in the next month.
And I think we have to accept that, and we have to say that for 2025, the website is going to be
Mostly, yeah.
Can we move on with this list then? The next two, relationship between STC and STBF, all future plans, they're all ongoing things. Reviewing of assets is ongoing. Standing orders in terms of reference,
So,
I mean, we do need to look at them because there are inconsistencies and typos within those documents, but it's not an urgent priority.
my personal view on the STEM laws is that we've done that this year. We revisit it next year. Let's not saddle so many things
No,
around
we
our
can't.
necks that, we can't keep on picking on those. On the relationship between STBF and STC, all I was going to say is the working group, the Finance and Assets Working Group, is meeting on the 26th. One of the things I do want to do is float the idea that actually we look to the working group coming to an end. It's been running for too long. And that is a positive statement on the basis we have a property manager and we should be investing the confidence and the demand on that individual to do a lot of what that working group was thinking about.
Yeah, and he's making good progress.
He is.
He's putting together a file on every asset,
Yeah.
finding documents that have been missing,
He has
providing summaries of assets and what we need to do and where we've been, where we're going.
visiting the assets,
So, yeah, it's
meeting
it's
the
good progress.
tenants, etc.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is,
Sorry.
sorry.
I just wanted to say, he has now met all the tenants, and the only asset he hasn't visited is the White Mills, which we're going to see on Friday.
Excellent. The payroll is done.
Done.
Health and safety is ongoing. Funding bids, well, that's ongoing. Deep dive of finance, we've discussed. Review statutory declarations for AGAR is ongoing. Annual review of governance. We need to keep that on the agenda. So are you happy with all that document?
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Propose that we accept that
Okay,
with the ones that are completed taken off.
okay. Any other comments noted? All those in favour? Thank you. Emergency works for lift at the Guildhall. I think this is good work again by the property manager. Is there anything to discuss on this, or can we just note?
I can note the report, propose note the report and thanks to the
Thanks.
property manager for using his connections to get this done so rapidly.
Do we have a second of that? I'll second that. Those in favour? Next one is refurbishment of the K6 telephone boxes. This is from myself. I think this is hopefully self-explanatory. The mayor kindly opened the K6 next to us is on Saturday, and I hope the recommendations are clear. Councillor?
Yes, I'd just like to, from the committee, to record its thanks and congratulations. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Long may it last.
Yes.
And I know that the next one is in New Street.
Yeah.
I think you said that you want the New Street one to be used also as a little information.
Well, that's I'm putting that to the committee to make a decision because I can't do it.
So my personal view of the one on New Street is that it should be made secure, it should be locked. It's in the wrong place of town in terms of putting anything inside it. It will end up in the water, guarantee that. It's the one that's had more vandalism to it. My personal view is it could be a signposting into the town in some shape or form, some montage, whatever it is, because actually people get to that point and they don't know whether they go left, straight ahead or right. So it might be a really good opportunity in an enclosed environment to actually give some information. So it will be information giving, but not in the sense of leaflets, etc.
And just to give a, sorry, Mr. Chairman, to give a comparison on that, and almost entirely 100% comparable, in Canterbury, the K6 boxes are by the Westgate Towers.
Oh, yes.
And today I went past those and went, oh, K6s. And there's a couple of them there, and they have internal adhesive stickers. They're just Union Jack stickers just to make it look good for the tourists. But I noted they had padlocks on the top and the bottom, and they are totally locked and they're not used. They are adjacent to the river by the Westgate Towers there, and they have not put a defibrillator, books in there, tourist information. Canterbury City Council has assessed that and gone, this can only be an outwardly facing tourist
Yeah.
beacon.
So one option for the new street box is, as you say, seal it up, but next to it put a information board with, information about the history of the box and why, what it is. Peter Anaru has done some text on that. But I agree, I think if it's open, it will be vandalised or used as a toilet or best probably to keep it sealed,
Yeah.
but looking good.
Yeah.
And with maybe we need to get probably planning permission, but just a little board next to it on the, behind the railings there, just saying what this box is all about and who owns it, and perhaps with a bit of tourist information as well.
Don't forget, it will be right next to one of the heritage boards, just remember that.
Yeah. Yes.
I would support that approach as well. I think it's the most sensible thing, and it's not irrevocable. If in future we wanted to make more of it, then we could.
Yeah, okay. So,
Before you go ahead with the recommendations, I just have one query. The £400 annual maintenance charge, what figures did you use to get that 400? Are you having like somebody like a cleaner to go in, or what was the £400?
it was purely from the top of my head, just as a contingency, really.
Yeah,
So it could be less, it could be 200. Once the budget's there, you can underspend or
I'm
overspend.
sure, yeah. I would like to propose, say, 200 for the time being, and then after a year, we can analyse
Okay.
expenditure, if that's okay.
But just to note that we will have restored both of these boxes for less than £1,000
Indeed.
with, a huge amount of voluntary labour. So I think the mayor was telling me you had quotes some years ago for £3,000 or £4,000 for.
Yeah, we
So
did, yeah.
we saved you lots of money.
Contractors were going to do it they were going to do both boxes in 6 days, and so I suppose they were going to throw a lot of people on it, but it was vastly in excess. So thanks do go out to Councillor Wiles and his team of helpers. It's an absolutely excellent thing.
It's been a good project.
I've just got one question, sorry.
No, you go first.
Well, I was wondering about insurance because, it's our property, so presumably they are insured.
Yeah, they're out of the
So
insurance.
if
they are.
there's a problem, if somebody
Yeah.
smashes something,
Yeah.
we're covered.
Yeah.
It's tough and large, so hopefully won't be too much damage. So,
Just a thought in terms of if Canterbury are using images of the Union Jack flag, you could have maybe images of Sandwich key identify,
Yes, indeed.
yeah,
yeah.
that would look, it should.
So
It's kind of capture people's imagination, and then it would act as a tourist directing people to features that are in the town, like skating salts and things like that. Yeah.
So if you're happy with the recommendations that we change 400 to 200 per annum, and that the future of the new street box is that it should be sealed up with an information board next to it.
Definitely.
I'll talk to the property manager about how we progress that, whether we need planning, permission, etc.
I'd like to propose that.
Okay,
If
we have a
somebody
second. All those in favour? Thank you.
Why
Next.
do you have a photo? Just trying to see what's
Because the telephone box is based on
It's great.
the roof of that tomb. Gilbert Scott, the architect,
Yes, Charles
based the K6 telephone box, all of the historic telephone boxes on that roof. It's in St Pancras Churchyard.
Yeah.
If you haven't been to Sir John's Soames House in
It's
London,
fantastic.
it's an amazing.
Wonderful.
Right, item 7, let's move on. 13. Attachment 7 is a draft pro forma for the budget setting process. This is from the town clerk and the RFO. Do we have any comments?
So, yeah, just briefly, Mr. Chairman, this is what I alluded to at a previous meeting, I think it was Heritage and Townscape, that we need to up our game. We can't have, with all due respect, councillors or members of the public or anybody else saying, oh, wouldn't it be nice to put a flagpole in the middle of the Guildhall forecourt? We need to have a pro forma to say, this is what the project I'm proposing to do, this is how much it will cost, this is to show that it's been agreed by other councillors, and to say that it will be put to the budget as to whether or not that money would go ahead and be sanctioned for putting into the budget the following year. Up to now, you know, and this is the previous administration as well, it was completely just, oh, wouldn't it be nice to, like that, and then suddenly the town clerk or the RFO were supposed to juggle budgets and do journal transfers and things like that. We should not be doing that for financial compliance. That when the money is set in a budget for something, that is how it should be set, and we should not be juggling journal transfers. So I think it's a fantastic thing. I thank the town clerk for it.
Yeah. So thanks.
Thank you. Yes, I think this is fine and absolutely necessary as a financial step. I think we would also need to ask for new projects, what are the expected benefits and how can we assess them?
Yes, I just wanted to, because I mean, there are one or two things which I think we've agreed to, like, for example, rebuilding that bit of the warm boiler, which now can't be read. That's a consequence, I think, of its refurbishment, actually, ironically, for which we paid a large sum of money. So would that now have to go on to this kind of form? And similarly, the grant about which I obsess, between the Key Path and Ainslie Court, for which there is a budget, has been a budget for years and years, never spent. Does that also have to be done now?
It is best practice, and I think, because also you would need to ask the council if they would, you know, take the money, ring fence the money for next year's budget.
Yeah.
So it would be best practice if everybody did this for every project and initiative, just to make sure that the RFO is very clear on exactly, you know, what she's got to collate.
Okay, well, I know I'll look after the ramp, but who's going to look after the wall? Because people have to take ownership of a particular project.
They do. I mean, that sits on the Heritage and Townscape Committee, so maybe that's a conversation you need to have with Councillor Mullet.
Yeah, the chair of that. Yeah, we could ask council, that's a good point. But yeah, even existing items going forward into the new budget year would have to fill in one of these pro formas, so that it is properly undertaken indeed.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'd like to echo Councillor Kennington's point. I think we should include in the pro forma the benefits of whatever it is, so as we can understand that. And then the second question was around deadlines, because I want to bid for something small. I just want to make sure I don't miss the deadline. So what are we working to in terms of these being submitted? And then it's a wider point, there has to be a cut-off point, so that you and the finance officer can actually build with you.
Exactly. So what I want to do is, obviously, if you're happy, we'll be recommending this to full council. So between now and when full council meet, I can have that conversation with the RFO, and then at full council I can inform members, everybody will be there, on what the likely timetable is.
Okay.
Because obviously it's very key, we have to factor in the RFO having capacity to collate all this information. So thank you.
But to some extent, sorry to butt in, Mr. Chairman, some extent, the timeline on the pro formas is already preset, because I believe we have to have the required budget setting done in the late October, early November, and then it has to get to Dover District Council, so the preset can be.
There'll be a lead in time.
Yeah, so the decision's usually made in the December meeting,
Yeah,
but clearly you don't want to get to
don't
December.
want to wait to December to make
So
decisions.
I mean, in my mind, but I need to check obviously with capacity for the RFO, but in my mind, I think the deadline should be the end of October
31st,
to give
exactly.
a month
I agree.
Yeah, but obviously I need to check with Lee and what else is happening as well with the RFO.
So the idea is this pro forma will be circulated to all councillors.
Yes.
And if they have any pet projects, it's not saying it's going to happen, but just their bids, if you like. Should it also go to each committee to make collective bids?
I mean, that is a good process as well, because I'm hoping that each committee, there will be an item on the agenda in October, in November. Well, we've got this one now in October, but H&T certainly, I think next meeting, there should be an item on there to invite the members of that committee with the pro forma and if there are collective ideas, like it might be the Warden or
So
something.
the draft budget is November. So it has
At the
to be
latest,
really
at the
clear.
latest.
So H&T meets next in November, so
Yes.
there's not very much.
Yeah. I mean, I will be, once council have agreed this, I will be circling, because you have got a meeting in October, because you don't have, yes. What you can do is it will come to you all individually, so take it from there and, obviously if there is anything that crops up in the H&T in November, that won't be too late if it's one or two things. But what we don't want is to be a late flurry of too many, for the RFO.
But just also, we need an extra box for a justification of this.
Yes.
And the benefits, as
Yes,
Councillor
benefits, yeah.
Pennington said.
So, one thing occurs to me for this committee is we need a budget for filming for next year,
That's correct, that is correct.
because we need to, put together a more
Robust.
professional and robust service. Perhaps Christina will then be able to retire.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, okay, are we happy with that pro forma with the
I propose that goes forward with the amendments made.
All those in favour? Okay, thank you. Date and time of next meeting is the 16th of October, so that's the end of the meeting. Thank you.
They mentioned that the live screen's still on,
Okay.
so please don't say.
That's where.